After 60, the worst thing you can do for your body might be the one thing you've trusted your entire life. Drink more water. That's what Robert believed. That's what his doctor told him. That's what every health article repeats when talking about hydration for seniors and preventing poor blood circulation. And yet, one cold morning in Phoenix, Robert sat in front of me rubbing his hands together, trying to force warmth back into fingers that felt like they didn't belong to him anymore. "Doc, I drink water all day," he said. "So why do I still feel like this?"
That question is more dangerous than it sounds. Because Robert Hayes, 72 years old, was doing everything right. He drank nearly a gallon of water every single day. He walked his neighborhood every morning. He avoided salt. He followed every basic guideline tied to seniors' health. If effort alone could fix circulation, Robert would have been in perfect condition. But he wasn't. His hands were cold before sunrise. His legs felt heavy when he stood up. If he turned too fast, the room shifted under him. And no matter how well he slept, he woke up tired. These are not random discomforts. These are early poor blood circulation symptoms, and here's what makes this story important. Robert did what most people do next. He drank even more water. Because when something feels wrong in the body, we double down on what we've been told is healthy. More water, more discipline, more effort. But after 30 years in cardiovascular medicine, I've learned something most people never hear inside a doctor's office. After 60, your body does not respond to water the same way it did before. So we ran the tests, and the results were confusing at first glance. No major blockage, no heart failure, no emergency markers. Nothing that would explain why he felt the way he did. But when you look deeper, the pattern becomes clear. His blood flow was sluggish. His vessels were not responding the way they should. His circulation system was underperforming. Quietly. That's when I told him something that stopped him mid-sentence. "Robert, you're not dehydrated." I paused. "You're drinking water in a way your body no longer knows how to use." That's the part nobody explains. Because after 60, several critical changes happen inside your body at the same time. Nitric oxide levels drop. Blood vessels lose flexibility. Red blood cells become less efficient at moving through tight spaces. And your body becomes slower at responding to simple hydration signals. So when plain water enters this system, it doesn't always trigger the response you expect. It fills the stomach. But it doesn't always open the vessels. It hydrates the surface, but it doesn't always improve the flow. That's why so many older adults experience cold hands and feet, fatigue, dizziness, and mental fog, even when they are drinking enough water. The water is there. The circulation response is not. And once you understand that, everything changes. Because the solution is not drinking more, it's drinking differently. Before we go any further, let me ask you to do one thing. If stories like this make you stop and think about aging, about independence, about what really matters, take a second to like this video and subscribe. This channel shares stories that don't sugarcoat getting older. And today's story might change how you see it entirely. Because what I'm about to tell you isn't theory. It's what happened when Robert followed every responsible hydration rule people recommend. Drinking more water, cutting salt, staying disciplined, and why, in the end, none of it fixed what was really going wrong inside his body. Now, let's continue the story. Because what I showed Robert next is where everything started to change. Not gradually, not over months, but in a way that most people feel within the first week. Sometimes, even the first day. I looked at him and said something very simple. If you only change one thing in your daily routine, start here. And what I gave him wasn't another rule about drinking more water. It was something most people would never associate with hydration for seniors or fixing poor blood circulation: pomegranate and dark chocolate. I know how that sounds, but stay with me, because this is where the science becomes impossible to ignore. Before Robert, I had already tested this with another patient. Linda Carter, 69, living in California, disciplined, careful, doing everything right for her senior's health. She drank water consistently. She ate clean. She stayed active. And yet, she came in with the same pattern I had seen hundreds of times. Cold hands in the morning, low energy by early afternoon, moments of lightheadedness when standing. These are not random complaints. These are early poor blood circulation symptoms. So instead of telling her to drink more water, I told her to change the signal her body receives from what she drinks. I gave her one instruction. Drink 8 ounces of pure pomegranate juice every afternoon. Add real cacao, not sugar, not candy. Real dark chocolate. She looked at me the same way Robert did. Skeptical. Then she tried it. 3 weeks later, she came back. And something had shifted. Her hands were warmer without her even noticing when it started. She could walk longer without needing to stop. The dizziness that used to interrupt her day was no longer part of it. Nothing dramatic, just consistent improvement. That's when she said something that matters more than any lab result. I didn't drink more. I just drank differently. And that's the difference most people miss when dealing with poor blood circulation. Now here's why this works. Pomegranate is one of the most powerful nitric oxide foods we have. It increases nitric oxide production in your body by up to 230%, and nitric oxide is not optional. It's the molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax, to open, to allow blood to move. Without it, circulation slows down. That's when you feel it. The heaviness, the fatigue, the cold hands and feet that don't go away no matter how much water you drink. Now add cacao. Real cacao contains compounds that protect nitric oxide from breaking down. So instead of a short spike, you get a sustained effect. This is what we call a dual mechanism. Pomegranate increases nitric oxide. Cacao preserves it. Together, they create one of the most effective ways to improve blood flow naturally without medication. And the data supports it. Studies have shown improvements in circulation of up to 47%. Arterial function improves. Blood moves more efficiently through smaller vessels. And over time, even plaque buildup can begin to decrease. But what matters most isn't the numbers, it's what people feel. Within about 30 minutes of drinking this combination, many people notice a gentle warmth in their hands, a clearer head, more stable energy. That is circulation responding. That is your body finally reacting the way it was designed to. Here's how you do it. 8 ounces of pure pomegranate juice, no added sugar, no concentrate. Add 1 ounce of dark chocolate, at least 70% cacao. Or use 2 tablespoons of raw cacao powder. Drink it in the afternoon, between 2 and 4 p.m. That timing matters, because your body's natural rhythm for vascular repair is strongest later in the day. So instead of fighting your biology, you work with it. And this is the moment Robert realized something most people never do. His problem was never a lack of discipline. It was a lack of the right signal. He had water, but he didn't have activation. He looked at me and asked, "So this alone can fix it?" I told him the truth. It's the strongest place to start. Then I paused, because what comes next works even faster. Not in weeks, not in days, but in minutes. And this is where most people realize for the first time what real circulation feels like. I told Robert, the first drink builds your system. This one wakes it up. Cayenne pepper and turmeric. Now I know what you're thinking. That doesn't sound like something connected to hydration for seniors or fixing poor blood circulation. But this is where the body reveals something most people never learn. Some compounds don't just support circulation, they force it to respond. I saw this clearly with a patient in Florida. 71, retired, minimal activity, complained of constant fatigue, heavy legs, and persistent poor blood circulation symptoms that wouldn't improve no matter how much water he drank. Same pattern, same frustration. So I gave him something different. A small glass, warm water, a pinch of cayenne, turmeric, a little black pepper. He looked at it, hesitated, then drank it. And within minutes, his entire expression changed. "Doc, what is happening?" He wasn't imagining it. His body was reacting in real time. Heat started rising through his chest. A tingling sensation moved into his hands. A light sweat formed across his forehead. That wasn't discomfort. That was circulation activating. That was blood vessels opening. That was the first time in months his system responded the way it was supposed to. This is what makes this combination so powerful. Cayenne pepper contains capsaicin. Capsaicin doesn't wait. It triggers immediate vasodilation. It forces blood vessels to relax and widen. That alone can increase blood flow dramatically. But here's where it becomes even more effective. Turmeric. Specifically, curcumin. Curcumin works deeper, not instantly like cayenne, but at the level of inflammation. Because one of the hidden drivers of poor blood circulation is inflammation inside the vessel walls. When vessels are inflamed, they stiffen. When they stiffen, blood slows. Curcumin reduces that inflammation. It helps restore flexibility. Now add one more piece, black pepper, not for taste, for absorption. It contains piperine, and piperine increases curcumin absorption by up to 2,000%. Without it, most of the turmeric passes through your body unused. With it, the effect multiplies. So now you have 3 layers working at once: immediate vessel opening, deep inflammation reduction, enhanced absorption. That's why this drink hits so fast. Studies have shown increases in blood flow of up to 50% within just 20 minutes. Think about that. 20 minutes. That's faster than many prescription options designed to do the same thing. And for many people, this becomes the moment everything clicks. Because for the first time, they feel the difference. They feel warmth return. They feel energy shift. They feel circulation instead of guessing it. That's something plain water alone cannot deliver after 60. And this is why simply increasing water intake does not always fix poor blood circulation symptoms, because hydration without activation is incomplete. Now here's how to use it correctly. Warm water, not boiling, just enough to activate the compounds. Add a small pinch of cayenne pepper, a teaspoon of turmeric, a tiny amount of black pepper, and if needed, a bit of honey or lemon to make it easier to drink. Drink it slowly, not all at once. Let your body adjust, because the sensation is real. And for some people, especially those with sensitive stomachs, it can feel intense at first. That's why timing matters. Do not drink this at night. It can overstimulate your system and interfere with sleep. Morning or early afternoon is ideal. And if you have digestive sensitivity, start with very small amounts. Build gradually, because while this combination is powerful, your body still needs to adapt. Robert sat there quietly after hearing this. He had already understood the first step. Now he was starting to understand the second. Not all solutions are slow. Some act immediately. And those are the ones that reveal the truth the fastest. Then I told him something important. If this feels too strong, don't worry. Because not everyone needs intensity. Some people need something steadier, something that works in the background, but lasts longer. And that's where the next solution comes in, because not everyone needs intensity. Not everyone wants to feel that sudden heat, that surge, that immediate reaction. Some people need something quieter, something that works in the background, but builds real strength over time. This is where I brought Robert to a place I visit often when I study real-world seniors' health, a senior activity center in New York. Nothing extreme. No heavy workouts. Just a group of older adults moving slowly, deliberately, doing light exercises to keep their bodies active. But there was one detail that stood out. Before they started, they all drank the same thing. A deep red drink, beetroot, and ginger. At first glance, it looked simple, but what was happening inside their bodies was anything but simple. I had been observing this group for months, men and women in their late 60s, 70s, even early 80s. Most of them had experienced some level of poor blood circulation symptoms, fatigue, dizziness, low endurance, mental fog. And yet, something was different. They weren't stopping mid-session. They weren't holding onto chairs for balance as often. They weren't complaining about that sudden drop in energy that usually hits older adults halfway through movement. So I asked one of them, "How long have you been drinking this?" "About a month," she said. "Before that, I couldn't get through half of this class." That's when I knew exactly what was happening. Because beetroot is one of the most effective natural nitric oxide booster foods we have. It's loaded with dietary nitrates, and those nitrates convert directly into nitric oxide once they enter your system. The same molecule we talked about before, the same signal your blood vessels depend on. But here's the difference. Unlike fast-acting solutions, this one builds. It feeds your system, it supports it consistently, and when you combine beetroot with ginger, something even more powerful happens. Ginger doesn't just help with digestion like most people think, it actively reduces platelet aggregation. In simple terms, it helps prevent your blood cells from sticking together. Because one of the hidden causes of poor blood circulation is not just narrow vessels, it's thick, sticky blood moving too slowly. So now you have two mechanisms working together. Beetroot increases nitric oxide. Ginger improves blood flow by reducing resistance. That combination is what makes this so effective for older adults who want steady improvement without overwhelming the system, and the data confirms it. Studies show that beetroot-based drinks can increase blood flow to the brain by up to 38%. That's not just circulation, that's cognition, that's clarity, that's reduced dizziness, that's stability, which is exactly what this group was experiencing. Less lightheadedness, more control, more endurance, and something else that many people notice. A subtle change in appearance. Their skin looked healthier, slightly more color, less pale. That's not cosmetic. That's circulation reaching the surface again. That's oxygen delivery improving. That's what proper hydration for seniors is supposed to support, but often doesn't when it's just plain water. And this is where many people start to understand a deeper truth. You don't just need hydration, you need activation, you need support, you need consistency. Now here's how you use it. You can drink fresh beetroot juice, or use a high-quality powder. Add water, then add fresh ginger, or a small amount of ginger powder. Drink it about 2 hours before activity, or split it morning and afternoon, because timing changes the effect. Before movement, it boosts performance. Before rest, it supports recovery. And over time, it rebuilds your system. Robert listened carefully. He had already seen what intensity looks like. Now he was seeing what consistency can do. Not explosive, but reliable. And for many people dealing with long-term poor blood circulation symptoms, that's exactly what they need. Then I looked at him and said something important. But not everyone needs something this structured, because sometimes the simplest changes are the ones that make the biggest difference. And by this point, Robert had already seen 3 very different approaches. The pomegranate and dark chocolate that rebuild your system over time. The cayenne and turmeric that activate circulation almost instantly. And the beetroot with ginger that strengthens blood flow and brain function steadily. 3 different paths, 3 different speeds, all targeting the same root problem, poor blood circulation. But there was still one more layer most people overlook. And it has nothing to do with how much blood you have. It has to do with what's happening in your blood after you eat. This is where I introduced him to the 4th solution. Apple cider vinegar and cinnamon. Now this one looks simple, almost too simple. But this is where many cases of poor blood circulation symptoms actually begin, right after meals. Let me show you why. I saw this pattern clearly in a patient I worked with in Illinois, a retired homemaker, 70 years old. She didn't complain about mornings. She didn't complain about walking. Her issue came after eating. Within 30 minutes of a meal, she would feel heavy, sluggish, sometimes slightly dizzy. She described it as, "My body just slows down." That's not random. That's circulation being affected by blood sugar, because one of the most ignored factors in seniors' health is this. Circulation is not just about blood vessels, it's about what's inside the blood. After eating, especially meals with carbohydrates, blood sugar rises. And when that happens, your blood becomes thicker, more resistant, harder to move efficiently. That alone can worsen poor blood circulation in older adults. So even if you are following proper hydration for seniors, drinking enough water, doing everything right, your circulation can still drop every single day, after every meal. That's where this combination comes in. Apple cider vinegar contains acetic acid, and acetic acid helps break down fibrin. Fibrin is a protein that can build up in the blood and make it thicker over time. Thicker blood, slower movement, worse circulation. Now add cinnamon, real Ceylon cinnamon. It reduces inflammation, but more importantly, it improves insulin sensitivity. That means your body handles sugar more efficiently, and when your blood sugar is stable, your blood stays more fluid, more responsive, easier to move. So now you have two mechanisms again. Apple cider vinegar improves blood fluidity. Cinnamon stabilizes the metabolic environment. Together, they support circulation from a completely different angle. Not from the vessel, but from the blood itself. And this is the insight most people miss. Poor blood circulation symptoms are not always caused by blocked vessels. Sometimes they are caused by what's flowing through them. That's why some people feel worse after eating. That's why they feel heavy, slow, foggy. And that's why no amount of plain water fixes it. Because the issue isn't hydration alone. It's how your body processes what's inside your bloodstream. Now here's how you use it. 2 tablespoons of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. A small pinch of Ceylon cinnamon. Mix it with water. Drink it about 20 minutes before a meal, or right before light activity. And what many people notice is subtle, but powerful. Less heaviness after eating. More stable energy. Less of that sudden drop that makes you want to sit down and do nothing. Robert nodded slowly. He was starting to see the full picture. This wasn't about one miracle fix. It was about understanding the system. Water alone wasn't enough. Different problems required different signals. And this one was solving a problem he didn't even realize he had. Then I looked at him and said one final thing. And the last one is the simplest of all, but it's also the one people misunderstand the most. And this is where the story comes full circle. Because after everything we've talked about, the strongest solution that rebuilds your system, the fastest one that forces your blood vessels open, the steady one that improves brain flow, and the one that stabilizes your blood after meals, most people still wake up the next morning and go right back to doing the one thing that keeps the problem going. They reach for plain water, and they believe they're doing exactly what hydration for seniors is supposed to look like. But here's what almost no one explains. When you wake up after 60, your body is not just low on water. It is low on signal. Overnight, your body loses fluids, yes, but more importantly, it loses electrolytes, trace minerals, and the subtle chemical balance that allows your cells to actually hold on to hydration and use it to support poor blood circulation. So when you drink plain water first thing in the morning, something very specific happens. It enters your system quickly. It dilutes what little electrolyte balance you have left. And then your body does what it's designed to do. It flushes it out. That's why so many older adults experience this exact pattern. They drink water in the morning. And within a short time, they're back in the bathroom. Again and again. That is not effective hydration. That is water moving through the body without being used by it. And this is one of the most overlooked reasons behind persistent poor blood circulation symptoms like fatigue, dizziness, and especially cold hands and feet that show up early in the day. Because your cells are not holding on to what you're giving them, they're letting it go. So the solution here is not to drink more, it's to change what your body receives when you drink. A small pinch of Himalayan pink salt, fresh lemon, water, that's it. Simple enough that most people dismiss it, but powerful enough to completely change how your body responds to morning hydration. Here's why. Himalayan salt contains trace minerals, magnesium, potassium, calcium, that act as signals to your cells, not in massive doses, but in just enough concentration to tell your body, hold on to this fluid, instead of flushing it. Now add lemon. And this is where most people underestimate the effect. Lemon doesn't just add flavor. It provides vitamin C and organic acids that help your body absorb and utilize those minerals more efficiently, while also supporting vascular function in a subtle but meaningful way. So now, instead of water simply passing through your system, it stays. It enters your cells. It supports volume. It supports pressure. It supports the very foundation of circulation. That's what real hydration for seniors is supposed to do. And when you get this part right, the effect is not explosive like cayenne and not as dramatic as the first solution, but it is consistent. You wake up and your body feels more stable. Your hands don't feel as cold. Your energy doesn't drop as sharply in the first hour. You don't feel like you're chasing hydration all day long. And one of the most noticeable changes people report, they stop running to the bathroom every 30 minutes because for the first time, their body is actually using the water. Now there's one critical mistake you need to avoid. Do not use regular table salt. Table salt is stripped of the minerals that make this work. It does not send the same signal, and in many cases, it can do the opposite of what you want. So if you're going to do this, do it correctly. A 1/4 teaspoon of real Himalayan salt, half a fresh lemon, room temperature water. Drink it slowly in the morning before anything else. Let your body absorb it before introducing food or caffeine. Let your system reset. Robert sat quietly after I explained this, because for the first time, he understood something deeper than just drink more water. He understood why everything he had been doing wasn't working, and more importantly, he understood how to fix it. And that's when I told him the final truth. Because what you've just learned isn't 5 random tricks, it's a complete system, and once you see it that way, you'll never look at water the same again. And that's when I told him the final truth. Because what you've just heard is not 5 random tips. It's not a list. It's a system. A system most people never see because they're too busy doing what they've always been told. Drink more water. Try harder. Push through it. But after 60, that approach starts to fail, and that's the moment people begin to believe something that isn't true. They believe their body is simply breaking down, that this is just aging, that this is just how it goes. But standing there, walking slowly through a quiet park later that week, I watched Robert take a longer stride than he had when I first met him. Nothing dramatic, no miracle, just small, steady change. And that's exactly how real recovery looks in seniors' health. Not instant transformation, but clear direction. That's when I said something I want you to remember. You don't need to drink more water. You need to drink the right way. Because hydration for seniors is not about volume. It's about activation. It's about giving your body the signals it no longer produces on its own. And when you do that correctly, poor blood circulation is no longer something you simply live with. It becomes something you can improve, step by step. Now here's what most people don't realize. The timeline matters. In the first few days, many people begin to notice subtle changes. Warmer hands, more stable energy, less heaviness in the legs. Those early improvements are not random. They are your system responding. Then over the next few weeks, the pattern becomes clearer. Less dizziness, better endurance. Fewer poor blood circulation symptoms interrupting your day. And if you stay consistent, 2 to 3 months is where the real transformation happens. That's when your blood vessels begin to respond faster. That's when your circulation becomes more efficient. That's when your body starts to feel reliable again. And this is the part most people need to hear. It's not your age that's making you feel this way. It's the habits that no longer match the body you have today. Because aging doesn't suddenly break the system. It changes the rules. And once you understand those rules, you can work with your body again, not against it. So here's what I want you to do. Don't try to do everything at once. Start with one. Just one of the 5 methods you've heard today. Try it. Stay consistent. Give your body time to respond. Because real improvement doesn't come from intensity. It comes from repetition. Daily, simple, sustainable. And if this story made you stop and think, if it made you question what you've been told about poor blood circulation and hydration for seniors, then take a second. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. And more importantly, share this with someone you care about, because there's a good chance someone in your life is doing exactly what Robert was doing. Trying hard, following the rules, and still feeling worse. They don't need more effort, they need better information, and sometimes that information changes everything.